As a disclaimer, Monster Fuckers Anonymous is indeed about wanting to love and have sex with monsters, but we want to make things extremely clear from the get-go. The monsters we will be selecting will be sentient and able to consent. Not all of the chosen monsters will be sapient, but we will not be endorsing zoophilia or bestiality. Anthropologically, monsters all around the world, and media representations of them, have had many racial and sociological implications. We will be as transparent and ethical as possible, while also sex positive and mostly having fun.
Monsters. Creatures feared all around the world in folklore and myths. Terrifying beings such as the fiendish and frightening fae, demonic devils, sultry sirens, hazardous harpies, and countless chaotic creatures coming from crevices of every continent. As long as stories have existed, there's been one pressing question that has remained unanswered by scholars for generations. One powerful thought that has plagued our minds for millennia. Can we fuck these monsters? That is what we're here to find out today. Welcome to Monster Fuckers Anonymous.
Welcome, one and all, to another fantastic episode of MFA, aka Monster Fuckers Anonymous, a show where we talk about monsters, their lore, their appearances, everything about them, and rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 of how likely you should have sex with these monsters. Some are good, some are bad, some are in the middle, but all of them are sexy. I am your creative creature consultant cleric, and here with me, as always, is our technical analyst, Joe.
I'm sick.
Yes, Joe is sick, so we apologize for the change in Joe voice. But Joe is sick, but we still wanted to be a trooper and do this recording. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for your sacrifice.
Mr. 34 is making me do this. I can't take paid sick leave.
Exactly. Listen, Mr. 34 is a capitalist, and we need to make money. We don't make money off this shit. But we're very excited to get to this recording, where I think we've been dying for it. So first round of business before dying. Well, one of us has literally been dying for it. First off, for a little bit of business before we get started, thank you to everybody on Ko-fi who supports us. If you don't know, we have a Ko-fi where we post a little behind the scenes stuff, some outtakes, some of our rankings. We're planning out to do some streams and some exclusive episodes that are going to go live on there. And so if you want to help the show, listening and sharing it is basically all you have to do, but if you want to do a little bit more, you can donate to our Ko-fi. It's how we pay our editors, how we pay our artists, and how we get new equipment to make this show sound better. So even when Joe's sick, Joe sounds good. Joe, can you thank our lovely Ko-fi supporters today?
Thank you to Akima and Funzo Surali.
Yeah.
Who sent us some money to say their name correctly.
I apologize for the last episode. I did you dirty. I apologize, which is why I was like...
I respect that.
We got the notification and I fucking screamed. So thank you for your support. We really, really, really do appreciate it. But with that little bit of business out of the way, Joe, what are we talking about? What monster are we diving into the depths of?
I wish I had prepared the X-Files theme. We are going to be talking about aliens today. I actually know what the theme is.
You actually do? Wow, but there are a lot of aliens out there. I don't think we can even begin to cover even a remote fraction of them by ourselves, Well,
it's a good thing that we have friends.
Yeah, I'm sending out the signal right now. Hold on, I'm pressing the buttons. Pew, 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 pew. It's a signal traveling across the stars. Is that a USS Enterprise ship that's currently landing in front of us? And who is descending from that? I don't know. Is it a tractor beam for Star Trek? I don't know if it's a tractor beam for Star Trek. It's whatever the fuck it is. But is that our friend Theta?
Hi. I would sing the Star Trek theme song, but I think that might be licensed, so I won't.
That's probably.
It's almost certainly licensed is the problem, except I assure you I have all of it just stuck in my head constantly. But hi, yes, aliens. I do that. I really like aliens.
Yes, hello. This is our friend Theta. Theta, do you want to shout out some of the things you do?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Theta. I make games, I play games, and I also kind of study aliens, which makes it fun to talk about fucking them then.
And actually, yeah, that leads right into my next question: is what draws you to aliens? But I think you already got that.
I study them.
You study alien dick?
No, unfortunately we have yet to discover any alien dick. It is one of the greatest sorrows of my life. The moment we discover, literally any aliens, we just gotta know there's almost certainly alien dick out there. Like, we can find a microbe and then we know, yes, probably my alien dick exists. So, like, the day we do, I'm all here for it. I'll be so fucking excited.
Honestly, the thought of, I think one of the things that draws people, and at least I know myself, I'm a big sci-fi fan. I think what draws me and everyone to aliens is like the millions of possibilities. Our universe is so fucking vast that the idea that there isn't something else out there is kind of bonkers. And so, like, also imagining all these different life forms that could be there, how they look, how their old cultures have evolved to despise or like separate to us, and how they fuck. I want to know how that alien coochie feels. You know what I'm saying?
It's a good thing I don't like sci-fi, and I'm a creationist, so both of you are going to hell.
Wow, creationist Joe Arc. Well, besides creationism aside, we'll be talking about aliens today. We've each bought an alien. We've kind of left it up to a mystery to us. Like, we have no idea a lot of what aliens we've brought to the table today, so we're going to be seeing our live reactions to it a little bit. All I know is that Joe's alien has a number in it, and that frightens me. I don't know what that means. Don't cackle like that.
What?
See, that's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to think of all the aliens I know with a number in them?
Exactly. Like, I've been thinking about that. Like, they told me last night about it, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? But with that, we each have an alien ready to go. With that, we each have an alien ready to go. And I think we've talked enough. We've pondered enough. We got to dive in and explore the stars and figure out which one of our aliens is the best to fuck. And if you allow me, I would like to start today.
Why?
Why? Because, I'm just feeling adventurous. I'm feeling exploratory. I'm feeling...
Explanatory?
That's a word. Shut up.
It is?
Go ahead.
There it is. So, the aliens I have chosen have such a rich story that needs to be told. I've chosen James Cameron's Navi.
Oh, I feel better about my choice.
Hailing from the lush jungle planet Pandora, the Navi stand 10 feet tall, with smooth feline striped cyan skin, with yellow eyes and long tails. The Navi have the ability to commune psychically with natural fauna of the planet by using what is known as a cue, which is a bundle of nerve endings at the end of a long braid at the top of their head. With clans located all over the planet, the Navi have a rich culture with endless stories that James Cameron must tell. I hate these things.
Yeah, so do
What
I.
the fuck is wrong with you?
Let me break it down. We all saw Avatar. It became a cultural phenomenon. It was one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Like, I think it is the highest grossing movie. No, I think Endgame beat it.
It's definitely not.
It's in the top, 3 highest grossing movies of all time. Avatar is a movie about blue aliens that live on a lush, the planet's cool, all this other stuff. We were obsessed with it. That movie came out in 2009. I want to get the context here. James Cameron was so obsessed with the idea of his blue alien people that he decided to make, I think there's 13 sequels in the making, and the second one is coming out in 2023 or 2022. So this year. And that's how obsessed he is with the Navi. So I need to know, I think we need to talk about and dissect what about that Navusi is so gripping that James Cameron has hold on James Cameron's soul.
I honestly just think it's a thing with him. It's just him.
It's just him. But again, it also gripped the entire world. It was, again, I want to bring this up, the highest grossing movie of all time at one point.
I think we were all just trying to figure out what the fuck Cameron was thinking.
Yeah. So let me ask this: how much of an Avatar stan is everybody here?
Not at all.
No.
I think when this movie came out, I was a child, and I didn't have I for some reason lost my glasses, so we were so close to the screen, and it was in 3D, and I was just like so like overly like sensory overload, and I had just a horrible time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that time is going to be reflected in with your time with the Na'vi.
What's with this fucking pivot, this transition that you're attempting?
Well, okay. So I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about the Na'vi. Let's give some background information about them. The Na'vi, they are, like I said, they're 10 feet tall. They like kind of exist very much in this very lush planet. They serve a Earth goddess who like helps them all and just like really doesn't care for them genuinely. The Earth goddess is kind of just like, listen, I preserve the nature balance. If you live or die, it's not on me. Which I think is pretty, that's interesting. They're very much in tune. The Na'vi really believe in like nature and being like sustainable, and like that's why they don't really develop anything, because they're like, hey, listen, as long as we keep as long as everything's still good, we're good. They can also, because of how in tune they are with the Earth, they have this bundle of nerve endings that kind of just like connect with everything. And so literally because of how in tune they are with the Earth and how in tune they are with everything, the goddess that they serve, literally most of the creatures there, they can connect with. They all have those bundle of nerve endings, and it kind of gives you like this big sensory, according to James Cameron, who wrote all the lore for this. And I want to say, I went on the wiki for this. The physiology has 90, like not even 90. The physiology has
looking at it.
So many fucking bullet points. Like they really went in on how these things are fucking, like how these things go about and fucking live. And so the Na'vi can connect with their nerve endings to any creature and kind of get their emotions, get their body, like it can sync their bodies up with each other since their nerve endings are touching, and they become one. But something else about the Na'vi, which is, I guess, we'll also take into kind of how they mate for life. They're monogamous. And so what they do is once you meet your like a partner, you connect. They don't ever do it with another person. So once they have their partner, they connect nerve ending things. They connect cues, I guess this was the best way to describe it. They connect cues, and that connects their experience, and they become soulmates for life. So that is how you have your one partner. They don't have to have sex then, but that's not technically sex to them, the connecting of cues, but it's connecting of bodies, heart, and mind and soul, like physically, with the nerve endings. And then they also fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So,
why did you pick them?
That's a great question, Theta. And I think this question has trapped the minds of both James Cameron and the American audiences for years. I picked the Na'vi because I want to know what it's like to stick my dick in those nerve endings.
I'm not sure your dick would get the feeling from it. I think it's because your dick doesn't have open nerve endings.
That is true, but would it be a heresy kind of thing,
I was gonna say, what is this heresy method of fucking? So the hair, connecting their hair together isn't the fucking. It's actually more holistic than that.
Yeah, it's more holistic than that. It's like they're joining mind and body and soul, because that's nerve endings, and so they're able to sync up their hearts, sync up their thoughts, sync up everything.
Gay.
It's pretty gay, to be
absolutely.
honest. It's pretty fucking gay, which is beautiful in a way. So they're able to sync up everything. I mean, they can still have physical sex, but that is like, once you bond nerve endings with somebody, that is like soulmate. Like you live and die by that person.
It's a ride or die.
It's a ride or die.
It's a ride or die.
So,
what happens if the other person dies?
Then you've lost your soulmate forever.
Okay, so you don't just die, because having your nerve endings linked up to somebody who died sounds like you would just die.
Well, I mean, you can remove the nerve endings, but like that initial link is like a spiritual experience, and then they like remove links, and they can do that whenever they want. But that is how they like stay fucking. Like they stay like, that's how you like. That's basically marriage to them, but like in the ultimate physical.
I'm not interested. I'm not interested in these mate for life bitches. These monogamous aliens. There's aliens for some reason also mimic social American marriage values.
Yeah. They're
James Cameron.
Wild place, Na'vi. Why?
Okay.
I'm still stuck on why.
Okay, let's move on from the heresy. So
I need to find like wasn't there a sex scene in the movie? My voice is going everywhere.
I think there was. I was
Maybe.
tempted to rewatch this movie in order to figure it out, but I also don't want to sit through 3 hours of James Cameron.
No.
Yeah, that checks out. Let's look this up.
Here, look up. Let's pause while we look up the Avatar sex scene.
No.
You and I at home, pull it up. You at home.
No, there is.
Oh, Avatar.
There was an Avatar sex scene that was cut out of the movie.
Oh, it was cut from the movie. Okay.
It was cut from the movie, but apparently it's on the DVD version.
Extended love scene? Hold on. All right, everybody. You're just going to give us a second to watch this.
Okay, so they're kissing and they're about to touch their hairdressers together.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole fucking YouTube video.
Yeah, okay.
The ears perk up.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm looking at it again. I'm not really a big fan of the heresies connecting. Yeah, you see, they've linked up.
Yeah, it's wild when they do it every time. Nothing in that movie was
against each other.
Not weird.
Okay, so all right, seeing the scene has extended some things in my brain. So 1, Kez, you're legally obligated to watch this scene.
Not a good scene.
So, seeing that scene has awakened some things in me as to this scenario. So, I imagine these are 10-foot tall, very tall creatures. They some of them are genetically designed. Like Jake Sully was genetically designed in a tube. So technically, they can talk. They can speak English. They can speak other languages. They're all cool with that. I imagine this is them as partners would be hot as fuck. Because you're connecting their mind to yours, and I imagine they sync up, and that way you understand what each other's bodies are doing. Like they can literally feel how your body's reacting through their own, and do what you need to or want to in order to feel everything. So I think genuinely this would be a great partner to have because it's the sync up of your bodies. They literally can feel it, and that sex is gonna be fucking phenomenal. They're going to fucking pound your brains out or every other shit.
I will give you points for the concept of the Na'vi just linking up during sex and then feeling what the other person's feeling the entire time. I'm willing to give points for that. That's I can accept cool. That's hot.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah.
The other parts of it, it's your hair. Also, there's the part where we're human. We don't have those nerve endings.
Well,
so in this situation, Cleric is also able to sort of tap into the Avatar Oculus Rift.
Yeah, I mean, everyone can get into that. You could, if you get your Avatar Oculus Rift goggles on, or I mean, Jake still I think they linked up in the movie when Jake was a human, and then while he was dying, they linked up and then switched bodies before he died. So I'm not too super sure. But again, it's possible if they can link nerve endings, then maybe they can connect to the base of your neck, and while you're having sex, or their weird heresy.
That begins to sound like one of those dystopian movies where you just have a put in the back of your neck.
Yeah, but this one's for sex.
Our producer just asked, wouldn't you have to be a part of the U.S. military to hook up with one of them as a human?
Okay, so that gets into possibilities. Let's jump into the Popo scale.
Sure. I feel like we didn't discuss anything but heresy, but let's get into it.
I'll bring it up. So, for possibility, as the lovely Kez has brought up, which is how possible it is to be with them physically and through their location and everything. The Na'vi only exist on the planet of Pandora, which is apparently a couple hundred light years away from Earth, that you have to literally go into cryo sleep in order to get there. So
That's so intense.
Yeah, and then it is a pilot in order to be as a human. Also, their planet I don't think has breathable air for humans. So if you were a human in there directly, you would not be able to breathe the air. But if you were able to join a super secret project as the military that turns people into Na'vi, then you have the possibility of being turned into a Na'vi, and that way you can meet someone and fuck that way. But as a human and as location wise, not very possible. They do also. You don't have to have a heresy in order to. We keep calling it that. We keep calling it that.
Every time you say that, I feel like I'm losing brain cells.
I think it's called a Q. I think the humans called it a Q. So every time you have a Q, you don't have to have
the heresy.
All right. You know what? Yeah, me too. The hairlessy isn't necessary in order to have sex because apparently they have like dick and balls, but you're just not like no Navi researcher has talked about it. They're just like they have them, but they're different. So that's about it. So I will say possibility does kind of skew a little bit. It's possible to be with them, but there's a lot of obstacles you have to face.
It's possible.
That just feels like so many awkward loops to jump through, because then you have to explain, well, I heard about that you guys like existed on this planet, and I just really felt like, I might have a connection, so I put myself in cryosleep and joined the US military, who I am diametrically opposed to.
See, when you put it like that, 3.
3, okay.
I think the actual physical, act of sex with them would be fucking amazing, but I also think all of the ways to get to them and how to get into that portion, and they don't like humans. I will say this.
Right.
They do not like humans at all, especially since humans basically colonized their planet or was trying to mine their planet for resources. So they think humans are savages and just hate them. Again, I think possibility with being with them, I think I have to stick with, I'm going to put it for a 3.
I want to hear what Data says, and then I'll give my possibility rating, which I already have.
I'll be slightly nicer. I'll give a 4. Because I do think the concept of, linking up during sex and feeling what the other person's feeling sounds very fun. But just everything else.
Yeah.
Everything else.
The possibility of having to get there and actually having sex with them is very difficult. Joe, what is your score?
4 being just under average is still too much for me.
Oh my god.
So not only do you have to you have to hook yourself up, you have to jack in to this world.
Hey, you jack in twice.
You have to experience entirely different physiology. Presumably, what was their mission going to Pandora? Were they literally
to mine the planet for resources?
Oil.
Yes, you're getting oil. I think oil is the thing of that movie.
No, it was unobtainium.
I'm in the military. Unobtainium is what it's called.
That's not even a joke. I watched the clip. I watched some clips last night.
Cameron, I'm coming after you.
It's unobtainium.
You called it
It's that little baby cells were 20 kilos or 20 something.
That's such a bad
Not only
name.
you have to fucking matrix yourself into another light year, whatever the fuck. You have to experience new physiology. You have to be a part of the military. You have to be fracking them. This is a 1.
This is a 1?
This is a 1.
That's valid.
That's honestly, yeah. I'm not even. I think people are saying what, Claire? You're very lax. Listen, I thought this choice would just be funny. I chose this because I thought it would be funny. I understand why this is impossible.
It is so funny.
Fucking 1. It's a 1. No, I understand a 1. I'm gonna stick with my 3, but I understand why it's a 1.
I'll stick with my 4 because I don't mind the different physiology. We're talking aliens, sure.
You don't also have to be in the military. You could be part of a corporate. You know what? That doesn't make it better. Attractiveness.
Make it
Part of a corporate research facility. All right.
Yeah, I'm part of this sketchy corporation that somehow got into a secret military branch.
That's always ends well. So,
Attractiveness.
You might as well fuck the xenomorph at that point.
I would. So, how attractive is the Navi? Because again, 10 feet tall, very long limbs, very feline-like, hairlessy. I'm gonna give it a 7.
I'll give it a 2.
Damn, Zeta, you're not fucking with the Navi?
No, I don't fuck with them. I don't know. There's some aliens whose appearances I fuck with who look way just less human than the Navi, or just more out there than the Navi, but I don't fuck with the Navi. A little too blue.
A little too blue.
Too blue.
I don't mind the way that they look. They look like dolls almost. I think imagine a blue Slender Man fucking naked person just descending upon. Right.
That's too long.
I'm so indifferent. I do not give a fuck. I don't care about them.
If we don't care about them, why does James Cameron? James Cameron,
James
explain!
Cameron. They're not unattractive necessarily. I know there's a lot of, obviously, like, socio-political contention about their appearance. It was 2009, blah, blah, blah. It sucks. We'll give this a 4. Or it's like, again, they're not unattractive. They're just weird, blue, doll-like Slender Man.
Gotcha. Audacity. How audacious it is to be with this monster. I'll give this a 2. This is very audacious.
This is so audacious.
This is fairly audacious, because, once more, you do have to join the military.
There's so many hoops to jump through, and Jake Sully got lucky being a white savior, you know?
Lucky! Yeah, I guess he did.
Fucking, I hate white saviors in fucking movies. I'm gonna move on.
Yeah.
So I think this is a 2 for audacity.
I feel like just mirroring the possibility aspect of this. I can't do all 1s this time around, but so it's gonna be a 2.
Yeah.
I'll keep with the 2 as well. That's so far.
Yeah.
Like, once you get with them, there's definitely no going back home and introducing them to your parents if you're doing, like, this long-term relationship.
Literally going into parental acceptance at this point, this is kind of like, this is almost like, hey, mom and dad, so this is my girlfriend. I met her on fucking VR Live, and
I think your parents would be dead since you're going into cryo sleep.
oh fuck.
Well, they were able to travel back and forth, apparently.
Right.
Why were they in cryo sleep then?
Because I think they did faster than light travel, which, again, still, like, you need to be in cryo sleep for, I guess. I don't know. Again, I haven't watched the movie forever, and I refuse to watch it. If there's an Avatar stan who listens to this episode and is like, well, actually, it's because of this, I don't care. I don't care.
I do. Please explain to me the science of this, because it makes no fucking sense.
Your parents aren't going to approve of this. Also, they're not going to approve of your parents. No. There's no fucking way this happens. 2. I'm going to give it a 2. There's fucking no way.
2?
Yeah, just 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is... Yeah. With all these scores, all the numbers we've just, like, thrown out, this is going to be... I already know the results of this, but this is going to be a fucking horrendous overall score.
You are your own downfall.
I don't even have the highest...
Your own downfall.
I am my own downfall. This is pain. This is
could have
absolute
chosen
pain.
a better alien. You decided to ask, why is Cameron James so fucking horny for his own creation?
Cameron
James. I chose comedy over winning, and that has been my downfall, I think. But we'll see where it really lies as we pause for math. So, with that, we've added up all our scores for the Na'vi. Joe, can you give us a little rundown?
Yeah, so for Cleric, we have an overall score of 3.5.
Okay.
For me, overall score of 2.3. And for Theta, overall score of 2.5, which rounds out the three of us for the Na'vi 2.8.
2.8, our second lowest monster.
As you begin, you don't like it. Nobody likes it.
You.
I think I mainly wanted to answer the question of why is James Cameron so obsessed that he waited basically, 2022? It's been 2009 to 2022. I don't even know how many years it is. That's like 13 years. Why did he wait? He take 13 years to make a sequel, and he's still pushing it. He wants to make more after the next sequel.
Racism?
I mean, maybe that. Honestly. How have we let this white man do this? Make more white savior stories about a fucking blue alien race. I'm tired of it, and now we know objectively through numbers that it's not that good, and is he just doing it for maybe to do tax evasion? I don't regret this choice. But now that we're done with the noble Na'vi, it's time for us to move on to our guest, Theta. You have chosen a monster, an alien, that you wish to speak about.
Yeah. I, unlike Cleric here, went with a specific person. I personally love this person and species. I've been watching the show they're from for ages. And like the Na'vi, he's psychic. Because I went for fucking Spock.
All right.
Okay, let's go.
And that description.
Spock is the half-human, half-Vulcan science officer of the USS Starship Enterprise. A tall man with a bad haircut, but nice hair. Like all Vulcans, Spock is fucking built, and more than able to fight anyone who were to come his way, if he weren't a pacifist, that is. Due to his Vulcan training, Spock portrays nearly no emotions, keeping it trapped beneath the almost hilariously tight uniform of Starfleet. However, don't let his professionalism get in the way of you thinking he doesn't care, because under all that repression is a storm of emotions.
I chose this partially because there were others that I love. I chose him specifically because there are other people who I love. However, I don't think you guys would know them. So, Spock. Also, with Spock comes all of the Vulcans. And how I can put this very succinctly is that any sex trope you can think of in media, Spock probably did at some point.
Like, what do you mean by that?
Name one. Just go ahead. Name one.
So I have the two in mind right now,
Just
which
think
is
any.
Omegaverse and Sex Pollen.
Yeah, there's also Fuck or Die. I think
Fuck
he
or
did.
Die.
Yeah, Fuck or Die. Like that whole thing of you
Yes,
better fuck or
yeah.
you're gonna die.
Yeah.
It's implied that all the Vulcans can also do the psychic link up during sex and that they do it during sex. Like, they imply that heavily in Star Trek.
Plug in.
It's great. The Vulcans are so repressed and they seem to have so many sex things going on with them. And Gene Roddenberry was just super horny when he made all of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah. He tried to give one alien 4 boobs. He was turned
Honestly,
down.
I don't need to be convinced. I would fuck Spock.
Okay.
I'm down to fuck.
Fuck. He's really tall.
Here's my thing.
He's really tall.
He's really tall.
How tall is Spock? Spock is like what?
I don't know. Over 6 feet. I'm pretty
Over 6
sure.
feet? Okay. So here's my thing though. Here's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. Because every time I've seen what I know of Spock is that he's like supposed to be this super analytical, like mind, like really just facts over feelings kind of vibe. So
Yes.
how horny is this man?
Culturally.
So I will say that the Vulcans, like, culturally, they're very repressed, but the entire deal is that the only reason they're repressed is because, how did they put it? It's not that they don't experience emotions, it's that they experience too many emotions, and so they have to, like, have control over those, but the emotions are still there.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't act upon them.
Gotcha.
Most of the time.
Here's what I'm imagining, because you also described that you're telling us about like the 7-year fuck fest or something.
No, it's every 7 years there's a fuck fest. It's not 7
The
year
7-year fuck
The
fest.
7-year
Like, that
long
would be
fuck
worse.
fest.
Yes, a 7-year long fuck fest. They do this every year, and then it lasts for 7 years, and then they do it again the next year.
So my question, or just like my brain, just is trying to compare a scenario where like you're with Spock, and I don't. Or not even just Spock specifically. I'm thinking like the Vulcan in general. I feel like you're dating or you're being with somebody who is at first very like you think they're very like bland, very just like hello, what do you need kind of thing. But then as you start to like open up and start talking to them, they become like more expressive, more things. They still like very cute, the blend, but they become more expressive with certain things, and that can be both good and bad. Especially since they can cyclically link up with you, which we already talked about is hot. But I think it also becomes a downside if it's because sometimes I remember I think there was a scene where like Spock loses control of his like emotions and he can like fucking goes hog wild.
Yeah, I will agree that is a downfall of the Vulcans. When they lose their emotions, it doesn't always go well for everyone else when they get angry, because they get really angry and they are very strong. So
That's the case. The moment like the dam breaks is like that's gonna be a problem. That's both frightening in every sense of the word. A decent downside to be aware of, because you always have to be like kind of walking on eggshells a bit.
that's true. But in the good case scenario, they never, like, the dam shell doesn't really break. Because normally the dam shell that breaks is due to outside influence. So, if it's them still in control, and it's not they've been sex pollened or something, It's probably not losing that sort of control, and you probably won't get murdered. Except during the every 7-year fuck. That's actually a hazard.
People die from that?
Well, so the thing is, there's 2 ways to get rid of Ponfar. That's what it's called in the show. I did not make the name.
sex felon?
No, the 7-year fuck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can either fuck it out, or you can murder somebody. And that's actually the plot of the episode, that Spock thinks he murders Kirk, who he may or may not be in love with. And he's not in the show, but I like to believe he is. This is an entirely different thing. And then he thinks he murders Kirk, and then Ponfar ends. So honestly, you might die.
My one question about Ponfar is it like orgiastic, or is it like a heat situation?
It's a
like
heat situation, but it lasts for ages. Like, it lasts for like 2 weeks or something, I think. And I don't know. I like to... So, there's not...
I mean, that's... No. So what I want to... This might be a tangent, but I want all 3 of us to hold hands now in a circle.
Okay.
And sort of imagine all of us being... I guess just to make this more relatable to all the 3 of us, all 3 of us are betas in the Omegaverse.
I hate this.
And Spock is an Omega. But for whatever reason... In this situation, Omegas can also feel very strongly or psychically attached to betas as well as alphas. And Spock needs you to nest with him for 2 weeks as he needs to just fuck or eventually kill someone. And you can be there for him so that he doesn't do that.
I brought Spock up because I would do it. So, like, I can't say no. I just also hate every word that came out of your mouth just now.
Yeah, that was horrendous to listen to directly. And I'm mad that you woke me into me thinking that I am in that scenario. But I also don't disagree with you. I definitely probably would do the same thing for a 2-week-long fuckfest with Spock. But I think what I'm worried about when it comes to Spock, and I guess with the Vulcan, is just like... Because you said it's outside influences. So what if, like, the outside influence one day is me fucking leaving the dishes out? And I just, like, that's what happens.
Doing dishes.
I don't like doing dishes.
I feel like that's not what's going to happen, especially since this is you are either in Starfleet or the Federation. I'm not sure that you have to do dishes anymore. So, like, that's a thing. But I also feel like that wouldn't set the Vulcans off, or Spock specifically. Because it's always, like, aliens, like, pheromones and shit.
Alright. I will also say, my favorite Spock is well, not my favorite Spock, but the one that always comes to mind, the one I'm thinking of, is the remake Spock, the one that's from this movie series.
Yes.
I forget who plays him, but he's hot. I'd fuck that Spock. Which
I think most of the Spocks are fairly hot, so like
I think that's a legal requirement for you to get hired to be Spock, is to be hot.
Honestly, yeah. They also all seem to really love Spock, which is a fun bonus to them playing Spock. I know too much about this.
Well, because you know so much about this, we should dive into the Pabo scale to figure out how likely all this is possible. So, let's start off with possibility. How likely it is to A, encounter Zvok, but in other possibilities, how likely it is to encounter a Vulcan if we were in the Star Trek universe.
If you were in the Star Trek universe, encountering Spock would definitely be a harder thing because Spock is specifically part of Starfleet and he seems to be on multiple 5-year missions, so getting to him is hard that way. You would just have to, like... They acknowledge this within the show. You have to join Starfleet, then be the best of Starfleet to even get onto the Enterprise to interact with Spock. So that's a bit of a problem. However, to encounter a Vulcan, incredibly easy. Literally, you can just go, I want to go on a ship to Vulcan, and you can go to Vulcan. It doesn't cost money. Star Trek doesn't have money. These things are just... No, it doesn't. It's a post-scarcity society, so there's no money involved in any of this. It's great. So you could just go, I want to go to Vulcan. Go to Vulcan. It's incredibly hot there, which is a problem. It's, like, super fucking hot. But there's tons of Vulcans, and they're also on Earth and in Starfleet. So, like, it's not a hard thing to do. It becomes harder in the remake movies, because in those ones, Vulcan is blowed up. so there's not as many Vulcans anymore. But in the original series, super easy.
Okay.
I feel like I need to acknowledge that one of these has a planet blown up.
So then my follow-up question for possibility is how, like, do Vulcans get into relationships besides the 7-year fuckfest?
I mean, yes, they definitely do. That's how, I guess, Spock was created, the best way to put it.
I want to ask, with the Vulcans, are they the repressed society where it's almost, intimacy is almost, like, their sense of romantic and sexual interactions are sort of backwards compared to ours? Like, I don't remember which species it was, but, like, hand-holding was
that's the Vulcans. But that's because,
right,
I'll defend the hand-holding thing. It's because they have extra nerves in their hands.
Okay. But
So hand-holding with them is fully, like, making out, sensually.
So then, but you already said that they're very, like, intimacy, ambivalent. So would it be like you can't even, like, really kiss or, like, even hug or things like that until the 7-year fuck?
It's like having a very sensitive to touch part.
Yeah, you can. You might get kicked out of restaurants on Vulcan.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like, this happens in an episode, unironically.
Okay. So here's what I say. I'm going to give this a 6 for possibility. The reason being, I'm factoring both the Vulcan themselves and Spock. If you're trying to bank Spock specifically, that's very difficult to do because he's best of the best and he fucks on the reg. So kind of difficult to not difficult to get with Spock, but like difficult to track him down. Vulcan itself, not difficult, but to be with a Vulcan, I think the possibility is kind of there's a lot of factors you have to like really get into. So I would give it a 6 to balance it out.
That's valid. I might go with a 7 because it's a lot more likely to get with a Vulcan than with Spock. You know, Spock's one person. There's millions or billions of Vulcans.
Mm-hmm.
And all I have to do is kind of be smart and go to study at a university on Vulcan. And those are things I could probably pretty easily do. I like astrobiology. They have astrobiology programs there, I know.
Yeah.
Why not? Just do more
This
science.
is a lot more possible for Theta than it is for Clark.
Possibly, yeah. I follow the prerequisite requirement of having too much interest in aliens.
A brain.
Me and Joe dummies. We dummies.
Dummies.
We dummies.
Not. No.
Following sort of Cleric's line of thought is, like, I think this is squarely in the middle of 5 because, like, I personally want Spock. But if there's also lots of other Vulcans, that, like, also just makes sense. I feel like just to put that squarely in the middle, we're going to put it in 5.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, Spock. I wish you were more obtainable.
All right. So then with, we got possibility down. Let's go to attractiveness. How attractive the Vulcan and attractiveness. How attractive Spock and the wish the Vulcan are. I'm sorry. I can't do that. But,
I feel like it's harder to rate all of the Vulcans because that's an entire...
Yeah.
Right.
She's... Like, where do you put them on a scale? I don't know. But I will say, Ethan Peck's Spock with the beard, so fucking hot. I'd be like 9 or 10. He needed to keep that beard. The beard makes him instantly less hot, in my opinion. He needs the beard. He's also the son, like the actor who plays him is the grandson of Gregory Peck, which maybe is helping a little bit there.
Probably. So
yeah.
Here's what I'll say. We'll go with Spock for attractiveness, and that's an 8 out of 10.
I'll go 9. He's hot.
If I'm talking about like the remake Spock, the one that's coming to mind for me, that's an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, that's valid.
I'm really down for Leonard Nimoy. Nimoy. I'm down for Leonard Spock. Stuck between a 7 and an 8. The eyebrows are iconic. I will say.
The eyebrows are iconic. So
And
is the
the
blue
bow tie.
eyeshadow. Oh, we
There's
went
blue
way
eye-
different. He has blue eyeshadow in the original.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah, here's a picture of it. You kind of see it on there.
That is blue eyeshadow.
Okay, so
Some episodes it's
this
a
is an
lot
8.
longer.
This is an 8, absolutely. He's got makeup, he's got style, he's got elf ears.
He's got sarcasm.
He's autistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good. Audacity, how audacious to get the Spock in with the Vulcan. I do think this is on the higher scale, or on the more audacious side, I think is the way to put it. So I think I'm feeling a 4. I'm feeling a 4.
I think it's not that audacious, and I cannot figure out which way audacious would be.
Lower the score, more audacious.
Okay. I want to say like a 6 or 7. It doesn't seem that audacious in my mind because they are
Right.
an entire species that are part of the Federation, regularly interact with humans. There's like a couple billion of them, but a little audacious because, like, you know, just everything going on with the sex. So
Yeah, God, that's true.
yeah, we have to include the existence of the 7-year fuck every time we talk about them.
Panfa.
Panfa. I hate that
So
name.
what was your score?
I'll go with a 6.
I want to echo that. I feel like, yeah, what you said just makes sense to me. There is very much the, like, I will either get fucked for a long time or get killed, and that's, you know, that's temporary and boring.
I can live with that. I can live with that. It's fine.
Yeah. We'll go 6. Sure.
All right. With that, then
Is
we go
it
to
good?
parental approval. If we were in the Star Trek world, how would our parents feel if we came in through the door with a Vulcan and or Spock? For this one, I'm going to rank this pretty high. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
This is pretty high.
Yeah.
Oh, my parents would probably be like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. So I'll say 10, because my parents would just be like, I'm sorry, you're marrying somebody with credentials who has a good job and cares about you? 10 out of 10.
You're marrying Spock?
My mother, I think my mother might start crying at that point. She likes Spock as well. This is a terrible thing. She is the one who introduced me to Star Trek, so.
Incredible.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, this is... I'm going to say 8 rather than 9. It's still... this is obviously still very high, but I don't know. I think my parents are like, oh, credentials, amazing. He's a little nerdy looking, though, but
Yeah.
we'll get him to a Uniqlo or something.
Yep. We'll stop by Uniqlo before we go over.
A little nerdy, but,
Yeah.
you know, credentials, that's good. Gotta have those
That's
credentials.
good.
All right. If we got
All right.
If we got that all for our parents out of the way, it's time for us to add up all our scores for what will be, I believe, a high-ranking alien. Joe, why don't we pause for math?
Math, math.
So, after adding up all of our scores, Joe, can you drop us that hot mathematical knowledge?
Yeah. So for Cleric's overall score, as well as mine, both of us got a 6.8.
Hey, look at us, twinning.
Aw,
Theta got an 8, a flat 8 average score all around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which leaves Spock fairly high, a 7.2.
Ooh, okay, that ranks pretty high in our ranks of
I can
monsters.
accept this.
I think Spock and the Vulcan, again, they're very hot, and their downsides aren't that big a downside, to be honest. So,
I will say that I think that death is worth a good fuck, so like...
you know what? That is the basis of MFA. I think we all agree
Yeah.
to that.
And that is MFA's mission statement.
Yeah. Death is worth a good fuck. So that's all we have for the valiant Vulcan and the stimulating Spock. And now time to wrap up the episode with our last alien to talk about. Joe, I am scared for your choice because I'm still thinking about the one that has a fucking number in it.
Mm-hmm. So, my choice, which, although may seem like a joke, is actually not a joke, is from a very popular, not necessarily series, long line of a single entity that has been redone a handful of times, has a number in the name, is a giant green plant.
Cool.
I will be talking about Audrey 2 from Little Shop of
Oh
Horrors.
my god, no!
Yeah! Plant fucking!
Audrey 2 is the main antagonist of Little Shop of Horrors. Requiring human blood to survive, Audrey 2 comes from a planet of carnivorous plants that were sent to different planets to destroy them. Although at first a small Venus flytrap plant, eventually Audrey 2 grew into a large, hideous beast, gaining the ability to speak and thus to beg Seymour for more food. Upgrading from blood to human meat. On more than one occasion, Audrey 2 plays with Seymour's emotions to convince him to kill for its food. The plant's reign doesn't simply range from Seymour and Skid Row. In different interpretations, Audrey 2 even ranges out to world domination.
I want to give a confession to y'all. So
Mhm.
I'm a big musical
That
theater
you're
fan.
attracted to plants. That you're attracted to plants with big teeth and
Titties?
tentacles.
This one
Titties.
doesn't have titties, but it should.
Well, that's not a secret. That's a very obvious thing that is about me. But I'm somebody who likes musicals a lot, very much so.
Mhm.
That's not the secret. The secret is that
Mhm.
I've actually never seen Little Shop of Horrors.
Same.
Which makes this even better for me.
I have less to argue with you. All I know is that there's an episode of Billy and Mandy based off Little Shop of Horrors, and that's the Brains episode.
Mm.
And that's
Oh, interesting.
and that's horrifying because that episode is a genuine like horror trip.
That is. Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
It's got a banger song though.
Do you know the basic? Oh, love Voltaire. Love, yeah, incredible.
Voltaire songs are just.
Do you all know the basic gist of Little Shop of Horrors?
Yeah, like there's a plant lands into the fucking into the shop. Guy takes care of it because he's a fucking loser, and it asks him to eat people, and he still ends up eating people and shit like that. And then it grows out of control, eats him, and then also like I guess rules the world because no one kills it.
Yeah, pretty much, basically. And I'm not sure if you've ever heard any iteration of Audrey 2 singing, but it's always like an incredibly iconic singer. Let me look up the first Audrey.
I need to know who these people are then. The only song that I can think of off the top of my head from Little Shop of Horrors is Suddenly Seymour. Which I know.
Suddenly Seymour got huge. Yeah. So the original, well, not the original, the movie Audrey 2, I believe, was Levi Stubbs.
Ooh.
But a very recent Broadway, I don't know if it was Broadway, but a very recent musical one was Amber Riley from Glee.
Oh,
and
that's a good
sort
one.
of the versatility of that role, and it's incredible. Like, there's like the solos that Audrey 2 has are always they're so soulful, and just like just Audrey 2 being able to sing like that while also being a giant plant monster that also just hypnotizes people into helping Seymour get more money and more fame, essentially, and can promise that just so long it can eat people. It's a big ask. It is a big ask. But I would fuck that thing.
Okay, well, how?
Oh, I would.
Now, my follow-up question is how?
Eat me.
Well, yeah, well, I guess there is the vor aspect that I wasn't necessarily going into.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking of that aspect.
Yeah, this sounds very vory, I want to be honest.
Audrey 2 could probably fuck me more likely because tentacles.
Oh yeah, tentacles,
Yeah.
tentacle porn, 100%. I think everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But for our audience who may not know what vor is, would someone like to explain that?
It's when you eat
No
people,
skills?
and it's like mainly like a big person, big sexy monster swallows you, and then the feeling of your body going down someone's throat. Well, you know, that stuff.
Wild sentences.
Yes. We here at MFA believe in education. Not good ones, but in education nonetheless.
We believe in feeding kink, inflation, plant fucking.
feederism.
Plant fucking is I think plant fucking is a completely just valid thing too.
Well, here's the thing. I never look at a lemon tree as like, I'm trying to put my seed in that, you know?
Well, the
It
lemon
already
tree
has
isn't
seeds.
sapient.
That is
It's not
true.
sentient, rather.
You know what? That's true. I take it
Yeah.
back.
Audrey 2 is way more sentient than the rest
Audrey
of us,
2 is
I
just
think.
sentient. Pure. Just.
Again, but I also think she would like use you for sex, but then as an objective to eat you or to get money out of you for Seymour. Which in that case, that'd be a plant dominatrix business.
Audrey doesn't want money. Audrey 2 wants to eat. And so do I.
You gotta eat that pussy?
I mean, yeah. The pussy?
The pussy.
The plant
I
pussy?
think that's
Plant
valid.
pussy.
Have you never seen shampoo plants?
What the fuck is that?
Look it up. Look it up right now.
God, alright. I have to type into my
The problem I feel though with saying plantussy is that does Audrey 2 even have one? Like,
We have no idea. Like, Audrey 2... Audrey 2 can, like, self-reproduce.
most plants can. That's like a plant thing.
Right. That's true. But can just split off and make different versions of herself.
See, that actually sounds fun.
Which is, it's just, incredible. As much as, as far as orifices goes, with blah, 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 like, Audrey 2 can fuck you.
Yes.
Not being able to fuck Audrey 2 for a lack of actual orifices. Sex isn't always about penetration, and
That's true.
will always say that at least once.
That is true.
In an MFA episode.
Every time. I will say she does have a mouth, so you can't get ahead, at least.
She does have a mouth.
That's true. That mouth is used for eating people.
Yeah, but so is our mouths.
So is our mouths.
People? Our mouths are used for eating people?
So I also realized some more other thing that Audrey's done. There's a VeggieTales episode called the little
I hate
the rumor weed.
No, you brought up VeggieTales.
Yeah, no, there's the VeggieTales episode known as the rumor weed, Larry Boy versus the rumor weed, and I think it's based off Little Shop of Horrors. So it's this little weed that like spreads gossip around, and because he does that, everyone gets mad and like everyone gets upset, and then she grows to like be humongous, and then Larry Boy has to like tell the truth in order to fucking not get the rumor weed to murder him.
No, yeah, I'm just hating the fact that you brought up VeggieTales.
Somebody has
in
religious
this.
trauma.
Why?
I do have religious trauma. Thank you for fucking doing this. I just thought about it. Okay, you know what? Maybe I want to talk about VeggieTales sometimes, huh? So possibility. I'm going to see.
Yeah. So I will say with possibility, which it seems very. It depends on where we're at in the story, because in the beginning, a solar eclipse beams down Audrey 2 into a plant stand. And then Seymour finds it and is like, "Oh, hey, cool, Venus flytrap. I'm gonna nurse it." But then at the end of the story, depending on the movie, musical, or whatever, Audrey 2 reproduces herself in like millions, and then there is an Audrey 2 fathomably in like every person's house because she's for sale. So by the point, depending on if this is a post-apocalyptic, post-Audrey 2, is the Audrey 2's the president now, or I don't know, whatever sort of world, or if we are Seymour, I would probably put it at a fairly average, because you do. Oh wait, solar eclipses happen.
Yes.
Yeah,
you just have to wait for it.
This is true, but the solar eclipse might happen in a different part of the world. They're not as common on the North. They're not as common on the North American continent.
So if it just requires you to be not a part of the North American continent, easy.
Yeah, I still think possibility with it again. So possibility of meeting Audrey, I don't think is actually that high, because I think again, you post back to the world, sure, she's reproduced all that kind of stuff, but then like the initial meeting, if you're meeting the original Audrey 2, that is extremely difficult. Because again, you have to buy a plant stand in the solar eclipse, probably not in North America. It's, I think, very difficult. And then if you're trying to give physical intimacy of like her fucking you, because again, we talked about her not fucking her, but again, not all sex is penetrative.
There is a scene in the movie where she's just sucking on Seymour's finger, but he is feeding her his own blood.
Yeah, but then I mean, my dick got blood.
So if you have a dick, that is definitely a reliable way of fucking with Audrey, because I'm pretty sure when dicks are hard, there's a lot of blood there. So like,
poggers,
poggers
for me.
Yeah, specifically for you right now, Claire.
I'm gonna give this a 4. It's certainly a little bit under average, but it's around there.
Yeah. I'll say I might just split the difference. 5, I guess.
I'll go with a 5 as well. I think 5's pretty fair. I think 5 gets you, like, you could possibly meet him, depending on where you're at. Yeah, I think 5 is just fair all around.
Yeah.
So now, attractiveness. How attractive this monster is to be with. I'm not
Beautiful voice.
Yeah.
DSLs. Green.
I need Audrey 2 to have a higher score than the Navi, so, let's go with a 6 or 7.
Okay.
I'll change depending on what other people say.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Again, the voice is, I think, the big selling point for me. I would be more like, she do got DSLs, I'm not gonna lie here. But I think the teeth and the fear of the teeth would be super in. And again, I'm not super into fucking plants, like I said. But again, the voice and the lips are what are really just like drawing me to her. I'd make out with her. I'd have a great make out session with her.
You don't think I would? If I had Audrey 2 as a plant, I would give that fucking. I would give a kiss of the plant lips.
I give a kiss every day. I'm gonna stick with a 6.
I'll go. I might have to keep with a 6 because I'm looking at that plant. No. I like a good voice, though. I like a good voice. So I think I might have to just go 6. Yeah.
I'm giving her a 7.
That's fair. I think it's a pretty...
Obviously, no eyes, not sapient, really. But voice, the fact that her body can just cradle my body, I'm so down. She has like a blue mouth.
Yeah, she's got a blue tongue.
Or whatever. Blue tongue. It's pretty good. Very incredible. Very animated, very expressive tongue.
And if you're really into vor, she will 100% vor you.
She will fucking eat you. Yeah. If you're just ready to go out with a bang.
That's it.
In more than one way.
And I think this does also play into that feederism feedy kink of just like, I want to feed my partner and watch them grow. And this is the perfect example of that.
That is...
Yeah. And if you got people that you want to get rid of, easy.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Great way to dispose bodies nobody would ever know.
All right. So then let's go to Audacity. How audacious it is to be with Audrey. This is very audacious. I'll give this a 1. Fully a 1.
Okay.
This is so something. This is a decision to make.
So, I will be giving this either I'm between 2 and 3. I feel like 3 is very high in this case. I think in reference to the movie, Audrey can just be a plant and just be shown off as a plant because she not actually hypnotizes, but like brings people into Seymour's plant shop and makes sales just because she's there. So there is like a very gravitating allure that she has just naturally because she's a feat of nature. She's an alien.
Yeah.
So being around her, like, is not inherently dangerous. But obviously she can talk and manipulate people and call people on the phone. So
okay.
I'll give her a 2.
That's fair. I think a 2 is fine. I'm not upset at a 2. Where I will think I will get upset is parental approval. Now, I want to hear everyone else's before I give my score.
I will also give this a 2.
I'll give it like a 1. Let's say 2, yeah.
Any reason for that?
My thing is that I feel like I have used the stupid excuse before that we can just call on the phone and my partner's a fucking entrepreneur and self-employed and like it could only go so far. But
yeah, this is as long as I keep my parents from seeing Audrey is essentially what's happening here. The closest way I think I would be able to the excuse that would get used is like, oh, my partner has connections, like, she's really nice. I think in that case, my parents were like,
she's really nice.
She's really nice. She's really nice.
She's really nice. Because I imagine on the phone, I imagine Audrey 2 is really good at lying, and my parents would just speak to Audrey on the phone, and they're like, oh, sounds wonderful. There would probably be a question from my mom, are you Christian? Pretty sure Audrey 2 would lie about that. And my mother would be like, yeah, great, sounds wonderful. So.
I am going to go, I agree. I think I'm going to go with a 3. The reason being, she could. I was going to originally give this a 2. All right, everyone, let's calm down. The reason I'm giving this a 3 is I think I was originally going to give this a 2, but with the mention of the phone, like you said, this is one I could actually see that as a long distance, and then when every time they come to your apartment, you're like, oh yeah, no, this is my plant that's just chilling here. But that's only again in the idea.
Oh yeah.
But that's only under the idea that the plant Audrey stays small and doesn't continue to grow into a huge fucking monster that takes over the entire room.
That's true, yeah.
So that
wouldn't last
work
forever.
Yeah, it wouldn't last forever. So that'd work in the beginning, which is why I think it is possible to do like phone calls, to do all that. But without it, I think it's where we draw like the line there.
Mhm.
So I think a 3.
For sure. We got all our scores.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
So I think for the last time this episode, it's time for us to pause for math.
Myth.
All right, Joe, for the last time this episode, could you please read off the scores for us?
Yes!
Yes!
So-
read it off!
Again, Cleric and I are twinning for overall scores of Audrey 2, a 3.8 for the both of us, and then for Theta, a 3.5, which leaves us the average overall score for Audrey 2 of Little Shop of Horrors, 3.7.
Okay, that's actually, that's a little bit higher than I thought.
I feel like
higher than I thought.
Audrey deserved a high. I was just trying to ensure that Audrey got a higher score than the Navi.
And the Navi.
Yeah, the Navi with their fucking hair tentacles.
The Herosies, you prefer a Pelosi over a Heresy?
I prefer.
Yeah, any day.
Yeah.
All right, if that's the case, let's read off our final adjustment of these scores. Joe, can you tell us our rankings for this episode?
From third place in this MFA episode is the Navi with a 2.8, which was Cleric's choice.
Which, again, I think we all understood that it was fucking, like, James Cameron sees something that no one else can see, and sometimes beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I do not behold whatever he's fucking looking at.
Just because you make Terminator does not mean that you get to do anything.
I mean, I'd like that.
I mean, that's a different story, yeah. Second place is Audrey 2 of Little Shop of Horrors with a 3.7, and our winner for this episode. What?
I was gonna say, those DSLs, you know?
Those DSLs.
Those DSLs.
Yeah.
For first place, our winner for this episode is Spock / the Vulcans of Star Trek with a 7.2.
They are.
So guest win this episode.
Yeah.
So, that's a guest win. I love talking about aliens, and there's a whole vast universe out there for us to explore. So this will not be the last time we talk about aliens, especially since I have a bunch of Mass Effect aliens I gotta talk about. I fucking love that series. I got a whole bunch to go through.
I love it too. It's really good.
But first off, let's go to our closing thoughts for this episode. Theta, would you like to shout out anything that you're on? Any closing thoughts that you have for this episode?
If you want to find me, you can just find me on Twitter. I'm at Jobu_Tapaki because I have a bad sense of humor. I don't remember anything that I'm on right now. Brain's empty. Ending thoughts. Star Trek's cool. Watch Star Trek. There's hot aliens in it that can consent. So, like, you know, watch Star Trek.
Beautiful. Follow Theta. They are amazing. Joe, closing thoughts?
Planet Tussie. Better than Heresy.
Yeah.
Very, very valid. And I'll say my closing thoughts again. Thank you, everyone, for listening. It's been a wonderful episode. Thank you, Theta, for joining us. Absolutely love talking about space, aliens, all that kind of all that 9 yards. With that, I think it's time for us to say goodbye. Everyone ready to beam up to our spaceship?
Absolutely.
Beam us up.
Beam me up,
Scotty.
Scotty.
Beam us up, Kez. Bye!